everyone, and namaste. This is me, Binisha from Vision Nepal. You're watching television Vision Nepal, and you can also watch from nepaljapan.com. Here we have two guy. We is one of the here you can see Ken Earhart, and then you can see James Earhart. So Ken Earhart, let me talk more about Ken Earhart. He is a founder, general partners, and director. Oh my God, you have a very much big post from Sunpraise Partners Incorporate, and also he directly invests in startups, right? So he invested in 4 companies that I have noted down. That is Alien Technology, and another is Florian Technology, and ITV, and Viztech. Is that I'm correct?
Well, we have about 75 investments in companies overall, and those are some of the ones that I've been on the board of directors that are involved in, but there's many others as well.
So that means this 4 are the most successful ones.
In some cases, not all of the ones you mentioned, but you know, there's many others as well, like Salesforce.com, which have become global leaders in their space.
So let me come to Jim Earhart. He already invested in 3 startups and also organized more consulting services, and also he is one of the managing director of Accenture, right?
Was, yeah.
And also work as developer from System Architects. I guess you mentioned in daytime and day events talk series. And also work for Salesforce.com. It was very great to know that it has been improved till 33.3% in 2013. That was very nice skills. So it is really nice to see you both.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Ken, there is a questions like you work for like 20 years in technology, and you work for 27 years, and that is too long. But I do believe in technology, like 27 years and 20 years is not much. Is it? It is much, but then in technology we get into like in this technology. What to say, as it is a very interesting field, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us what is the key point needed to sustain in a startup? Okay.
Well, I think there's a number of points. One is, of course, you have to have a product or a business model that people care about, that people want. But beyond that, you'll find in almost every case, there's competitors. And so one of the key ingredients is, of course, the team and the leader. You need a CEO, a founder who is passionate about what they're doing and willing to drive that forward and make every effort to overcome the obstacles, because it's extremely difficult to start a new business. It's extremely difficult to be successful with a new business. So you need the right person leading that business. You need the right team supporting them as well.
Jim, you even ran a business in Bangalore in India for 7 years, and then it was like that is a very success story. Like it increased from 7K to 20K, and that is more interesting. So what do you think, what is the key point that is needed to start up a business?
Well, I think that the key thing would be is that you come up with a compelling product or service, right? So it all starts with whatever it is that you're taking to market, and Ken alluded already that around that you need to build a great team to deliver a high quality service, a high quality product, and in order to do that, of course, you need backing. You need backing from financials, investors. You need support from the industry, from collaborators, partners. Almost every company today works in an ecosystem. They have they're part of a value chain where there's a product or a service that comes before them and one that comes after them. So establishing a place in an ecosystem that's well developed and very collaborative and produces a lot of value is really, I'd say, the niche that is very, very hard to attain, but crucial for a startup to succeed.
20K is a huge number, and then what is the challenges you faced?
Yeah, so if you're going to grow a business that is based on employees, so a service company that where employees play a major role in the delivery of the service directly to the customers, then human resources, so managing your human resources is almost the core focus of the business. So attracting the right talent, developing their skills, helping them develop their skills, the training that they get, managing them effectively, maintaining high motivation, high commitment to the customer. That is the core of the business. In a services business, your people are your product, right? And that becomes a very, very core to that. So you need a very, very mature approach to the entire employee life cycle, from attracting the talent, developing the talent, retaining the talent. That becomes a core focus of the business.
I also, again, get back to startup. What is your definitions of startup?
Well, from my perspective and where we look to invest is it really begins with a founder of a business, an idea. It can start out with one person, but that's too small for what we focus on. But they're really creating what we like to see, creating a new market, a new opportunity, a new product, and they're doing that from scratch. And so it involves not just that founding member, but often in a startup, a technology startup, that's a technologist. So you might be adding more business expertise, you might be adding more customer support expertise, sales expertise, and you build out the team over time. So when one of our core part of our business is bringing U.S. technology companies to Japan. And in that case, we have a product already. We have a market already. What our key value is that we're building the right team. We're hiring the right CEO, the leader for the team. We're building out the team around him. And we're doing sales and marketing that's relevant and compelling and meets the requirements locally in Japan. And so these are startups even though they have an established product, because what you're really starting is the company itself.
Right. You work with like wide variety of peoples, like in India, in Philippines, with Chinese peoples, and then there you got a difference maybe, like they're in their thinking, they are in way of going through your like working in technology. So what are the differences you found, and then what do you want to see in this Nepalese startups company?
Well, as you pointed out, I've worked in many different geographies in the United States, in several European countries, as well as several Asian companies. I haven't been long enough in Nepal to really get a sense for the people well enough yet to know what they're inherently bring to the table. But I can tell you from my time in India that there was a very strong service orientation. There was a very strong desire for people to to deliver a good service and to interact in a supportive way with the customers and with the others. So, we found that to be a great environment to grow a services business. I'm assuming that the same would be true in Nepal. We also found that in the Philippines, and the people there were just genuinely extremely gregarious and friendly people. And so in the services business, in BPO, where there's a lot of customer interaction, that became a very natural and compelling industry for them. Right? They fit in very, very well, and the customer response, wherever the customers were, mostly in the United States, was also very strong. So I think in the United States, there's a strong interest and affinity to Nepal. If people knew that their service or their product was getting delivered from Nepal, I think that they would see that positively. Right? And so I think we could play on that service orientation and that interest between the cultures promote a new enterprise?
These questions will be for both of you. What investors are you, investing is a very big deal, and then what skills you look for?
Well, skills we look for in terms of the companies we invest in?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's a little bit about your last question, it's a little bit about that, but it's really the answer is why I'm here and why I came to Nepal and why I'm interested in looking and talking to startups in Nepal. Because as I said, we've invested in about 75 companies as Sunbridge over the last 16, 17 years. Most of the failures are because they couldn't become profitable. They run out of money, their market changes, and they can't adapt because they don't have the resources. We've invested some time ago now in New IT Ventures, which was founded by Kamal, a Nepalese engineer originally, then became a businessman quite successfully. In that company, he developed a world-class product that can compete head-to-head with some of the best Silicon Valley startups. He built a very compelling team in that company, and he's done it profitably with very small investment, a fraction of the investment in our other 74 companies. And so I wanted to understand, what's the secret sauce? How is he doing this? What is his answer? And really the answer is not just his own personality and capability, which is extreme, but the team he has built here in Nepal. And so over the last year or so, I began talking to our other portfolio companies and said, well, you need to outsource services from Kamal. You need to look at building a Nepalese development team, because you can't get in Japan, you can't get in the US, you can't get in Vietnam the quality of work for the price that you're paying now. And so I'm here partly to understand why Kamal has been so successful, but also to replicate that with our other companies. Because every startup, it's very few cases where the immediate team can do all the development, can do all the engineering, can do all the work, and they need support for that. And if they can get that in Nepal, this is a compelling place for us to work and ultimately to invest.
Yeah, no, we have a very similar perspective on that. So that's one of the reasons that we're here together, right? As an investor through Sunbridge in various companies, including in Nepal, you know, I share that perspective. So my experience, having worked from the IT services sector and as an IT service provider, is simply to come and look for the kind of conditions that I've seen in the past that make a services company successful. Right? Are the people? Is this the resource pool available? Are the people there? Do they have the right orientation? Do they have the right training? Do they have the right perspective? You know, do they understand customer service and loyalty to the companies that they're working for, and as well the right desire to learn and grow their skills? So that's what I really came to assess and to figure out whether you know, Ken's precept that the services could be delivered from Nepal, whether that is well-founded and scalable. Right? Could we talk about this to find 5 developers for a particular product? I would agree is not a challenge in effectively any environment, but to find 500 or 5,000, right? That's really the question that I was looking to have answered. We had a lot of presentations today. We got a lot of information. Clearly, it substantiates that the most of the core components are there or being worked on, developed, improved very significantly around infrastructure, around policy, around education. And so the question just then comes back down to the individuals and their interest and desire to work in environments as exciting but risky as startup IT enterprises. That's what I wanted to assess in my visit here.
I will come back to you. I just went through your profile in LinkedIn, and then I read there is like you focus on RFID sensors and all those hardware stuffs. So I'd like to know, because in Nepal there is a few hardware companies, like there is a Karkhana and then Robotic Association in Nepal. There are very few organizations, and people in Nepal, they never sustain in hardwares because they don't see futures. So what do you say about that? And then do you even look after those kinds of companies to just invest?
At the current time, we focus very little on hardware. We're focused almost exclusively on mobile, on enterprise software, on cloud computing. And the fundamental reason for that is those are the greatest opportunity for the future. When we did some of those hardware investments, it was at a time where it was very expensive to do hardware, but it was also very expensive to do software. And so there was less differential between the two. But if you look at the venture capital industry generally, there has been de-emphasis on fundamental technologies, software, hardware, chips, semiconductors, things like this, because there's a much longer lead time to returns. There's a much higher investment required. And frankly, over time, that's become less of an expertise for us. We still have investments in fuel cells. We still have investments in printed batteries. We still have investments in Internet of Things devices. We still have investments in RFID. But in terms of new investments, that's less of a focus for us.
But I would add, though, in that regard, is that, and Ken mentioned it, the Internet of Things essentially means that ultimately everything is hardware. Right, so every device, everything that you have will be connected in some form or another. And so I think that there's going to be a resurgence in, broadly speaking, what we could call hardware, driven by the software that is also going to, the mobile, the analytics, the social capabilities are all going to remain important focus areas. But as we transform everything that's currently exists physically into some internet-connected device, from the car to the electric systems to everything, that our homes, everything around us connected and controlled in one form or another. I think that you will see a resurgence of an interest and a focus area, at least in the connection of those devices, so hardware in that sense.
Thank you. Now I'd like to wrap up, and then there are any things you want to add?
Oh, I think we could talk for hours if you let us, but I think the most important thing from my perspective is to understand historically how things have evolved, but from that to understand the trends and directions for the future. Where are the new areas of opportunity? And to think ahead far enough that when you do this difficult work to build a company and to scale a company, that when that company exists and is to scale, it's focused on a market that's relevant then. Not that a market that's here today or that was here in the past, but to look ahead a bit so that you can get ahead of the competitors, get ahead of the market, and there's risk involved. That's where the risk comes from, is you can get the timing wrong, you can get the market wrong and so forth, but if you get it right, that's the biggest opportunity. And I think for Nepal, for startups generally, it's never been lower cost to do a startup. It's never been easier to reach your customers through the channels to market. It's never been easier to scale your business in terms of viral and other adoption. And so in my 16 years of venture capital investing and 4 years of focusing on public investing before that in the technology space, I think there's never been a better time to look at investment and opportunity around startups, around new technologies. So to me, it's a great opportunity and a great time for not just Nepal, but globally.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. A lot of the discussion today centered around the topic of Nepal as an IT hub or as an IT services hub. And of course, immediate comparisons are drawn to the growth of the IT sector in India as a standard example. And I think that there was broad consensus and understanding today that that comparison is interesting, but not necessarily helpful for planning a future for Nepal. Right? What we need to do is to find the areas where Nepal has unique strengths, unique interests, unique problems that need to be solved, and then taking advantage of the trends that Ken just talked about. You know, how do we apply mobile technology to those? How do we apply smart devices, smart watches, Internet of Things devices to address problems in Nepal, which most certainly are problems in other geographies in the world too. And then can we prepare the industry here to scale, to support and make those products globally relevant as well as successful in Nepal.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for giving us time.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it. It's a great honor.
By this, our interview here ends, and then thank you so much for Jim and Ken Erhard for giving us a time. Please do watch nepaljapan.com and also Vision Nepal Television. Thank you.